All right, Dieter and Hutch, eventually, as
We
promised,
made it.
Tuesday. Uh, we were waiting until Romeo Doubs got signed by the New England Patriots. Not that we thought the Niners were going to get him. They did their one thing, and they did it early,
It's
Jake.
it is funny. It was I think I told Dieter this like a couple days ago. I was like, I'm ignoring literally any reports, anything, because there's people that I think there's a weird fixation of the internet where now everyone wants to be an insider, not just particular to sports, but like even if you were to go onto like TikTok or YouTube,
Okay.
there's this weird fixation with being like someone does something, they're like, actually the thing about birds is this, and it will not be a fact, it'll just be a thing that people say,
Right.
and it'll be a cool thing, so people will be like, it's actually known that the 49ers are like have actually signed Romeo Doubs. Like there's a
So
lot of that out there.
everybody on the internet is like a 12-year-old Dieter, just a well actually person.
100%. Everybody's like, this is actually inside league circles. It's actually
Well,
known. Like I went to Indianapolis, so I actually know for a fact. And there's a lot of that, and then it's like, oh well, they signed Mike Evans, and not a single person even reported a whiff of that. So
well, there. No, no, no. That's not true. Forgive me. I don't
I
remember
I,
who
I
said
didn't
it.
see much
There.
out there about it.
Well, there wasn't a lot of tread on the track, to be fair. But it was absolutely something that had been legitimately reported. It might have even been Fowler, um,
Well, if it
our
was, yeah, that would
our
make so much
insider
sense
god.
because he reports stuff and no one notices it, and then 12 months later, it's like, oh, this thing I told you about 12 months ago is happening. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we they absolutely it was something that was possible. It was
Okay.
something that I believe you and I both sort of lampooned rather quickly in the sense of like, oh, that should fix this team's number one problem, which is we can't stay healthy, which is somewhat ironic in a sense because the man goes for like 12 straight 1,000-yard seasons despite fighting his hamstrings the entire way, and then
Right.
he gets blown up over the middle of the field by Branch, and I presume it was Branch, and it was in Detroit, and he got blown up in the middle of the field. I know a guy,
That
and
checks out.
he breaks his clavicle and gets a concussion. It kind of blows up his season. Like, is that a one off, or is he the most reliable dude? It's like we're in this weird space where
Right.
both things are true, and I think that kind of applies to the signing in general. Like, it's a great signing. It's also the riskiest thing they could have done. Both things are true.
Yeah. I mean, so I watched him, and it's one of those things where you're like, it's interesting because he both solves what the 49ers need and also doesn't in so many ways. So
Okay,
like in terms of being a true outside X receiver who can like attack press man, he's so good against
he's the
press man. No
best.
one is better at defeating hands at the line of scrimmage
Yeah.
and just like finding a little spot like on slants, on truly anything. It was awesome to watch him and AJ Terrell go back and forth because
Mhm.
those were like it was the one team he played like twice last
Twice. Yeah,
season was the Falcons, and so you got two looks at it.
yeah.
His like hand fighting, his craftiness in I think the best thing he does that young receivers can learn from is like at the midpoint of his route, he always pushes off, but you're never getting flagged for it. And he uses that crazy wingspan to just extend a little bit. No ref's ever going to call it because it's just
Right.
real quick. It's a little jab, but
Yeah.
then he's got separation at the midpoint, regardless of if he won at the start of the route. It's always like, here's a little jab, and now I'm free.
Right at 5 yards, right? Right at the illegal touching point. So if you were to counter him in any way, you'd get flagged because it looks like you're reaching out to get him. I mean,
Right.
that's some deft. I know what I'm doing. I'm a borderline Hall of Famer kind of stuff. And if there's only one benefit, one certain benefit from this deal for the 49ers, it's that they have now a master of the craft in the room teaching the baby children how to be wide receivers so that Kyle Shanahan doesn't have to, look on the monitor and go in there. And I think Leonard Hankerson is actually very, very good. Leonard Hankerson was a receiver for Kyle in Washington. He understands how detailed Kyle is, but at a certain point, more voices could be valuable because Leonard Hankerson's not going to reach everybody on a one-on-one
Right.
level and get them to maximize. And they are, in all likelihood, and apologies to Demarcus Robinson, they're all in all likelihood going to have Mike Evans, I guess Demarcus Robinson, though to be determined,
No,
and
he's there. He's there.
Well, and a
They don't
bunch.
really gain much by cutting him.
Well,
He's there.
there could be a trade. He might get cut at the end of the camp. I mean, but Demarcus Robinson's also a guy who, forgive me, can't really trust him in that he misses those 3 weeks. He gets all of the reps in training camp, right? And it looks like he's really good. He gets all these reps in training camp, and then he goes away for 3 weeks, and he comes back, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know how to play wide receiver now." Like, and it took him 3 months to kind of figure it out again. It was like that was just bizarre. So maybe I don't know. I don't know him personally. I've never had a conversation with the man. I don't want to impugn character, but there was a
Right.
peculiarity to his season and uh, his integration with the 49ers system. Mike Evans is going to be a great wide receivers coach, and he has a chance coming off of this injury to be exactly, I mean, as you said, exactly what the Niners need at X receiver. And then that creates kind of a domino effect down the roster where now everyone else seems to be in a better position because these were the positions they were selected for, right? Like Ricky Pearsall
Yeah.
was selected to be a Z, and Demarcus Robinson was selected to be kind of a guy who jumped in everywhere, but not that often. And Jordan Watkins was supposed to be sort of a deep threat slot and somebody who, you work with tight formations and then here's your 9 routes, your 7 routes, your 8 routes. Everybody else seems to fit a lot better if you have Mike Evans on the field, which of course
Yep.
is the main question.
Sure. Will he be out there? I think the thing is, like, you have to sort of bet that the guy is going to be out there, and even if
Yeah.
that's a silly bet, I think the price tag is like, so they use some not likely to be earned incentives where it counts for like 14
Yeah,
million,
can you
but at
just
the
can
end
you
of
just
the
start at the top with the contract and just lay it all on us because this one's a weird one.
so the actual structure is not fully out, but essentially it's going to count for like 14ish million. It seems like on the cap,
Okay.
it's like basically a 1 year $14 million deal where if he plays like a normal amount, he'll probably end up making like 20.
Mhm.
But because he had 300 yards last year,
Right.
everything that you leave as an incentive is going to be categorized as not likely to be earned, doesn't
Okay.
count on the cap. So like eventually you'll have to pay that, but it sort of comes at the end of the year and you get some maneuverability up front. So that's like a whatever sneaky one of those 49ers annoying things. But it's
That's a
like
Parag special if there ever was
but
one.
it's a guy who like X wide receivers at that position, at that size, extraordinarily rare to find.
Yeah,
That's an incredibly reasonable figure, even if it does hit 20. And if it does hit
totally.
20, it's going to be well worth it. And I think the other thing you forget about is like blocking. He's enormous. Like having
Yeah,
somebody that large is going to help as a blocker. It's going to help just taking up. There's a lot of times where he was bracketed and there was so much attention given to him.
right.
Um, I weirdly didn't like him as much against like off man or zone where there was people sitting back. Um,
Well, physicality is his hallmark, and
right.
let's not forget that this team was in on Tataroa McMillan at number 11 last year. He didn't get there, but they were keen on something like that. It's not to say they would have taken him, depending on if Nolan and Michael were there, but those were the three guys that they had really circled. And JJ has JJ was a long time just get it over to him thing. This is somebody who's sort of the maximum JJ. He's the I think Kyle Madsen on Twitter said that he's the Jerry Rice of Jawan Jennings, and
Pretty
like
good line.
that's pretty spot on. There's not a tremendous amount of separation, but there's always useful separation. He's always in
And
the right spots, and he has
yeah.
deep speed too.
And nobody's beating him on deep balls. And that thing I talked about, the little push off, he does that so well right before, just keeps a little extension, and then just gets a little bit that he needs. And no one's going to out jump him. Nobody's gonna beat him for a
No,
deep ball. And the 49ers aren't running a lot of fade routes, but at the same time, it is nice to occasionally have the option to throw it up and say, I don't know. This team has been giving us problems in the red zone. Sure, this
right?
is an incredibly inefficient play, but this is Mike Evans, who's a little bit different. Um,
You
it
have to have
just
it.
it answers a lot of questions, and I think the one thing that we were talking about, and I want to sort of relay this to Romeo Doubs, right? Because
Yeah,
Romeo Doubs was a guy that we were like, the 49ers should sign. Didn't really even consider Mike Evans because in my head I'm like, I don't think he's leaving Tampa. Like,
right.
I don't know at that age, does that make sense? Hadn't watched a lot of him last year because he didn't play a lot last year.
Hmm.
And then Dobbs, you're like, well, I see the system fit. The question was like, Dobbs isn't X, but he's not like a prototype X. He's more of a tight splits X receiver, which I think works phenomenally well replacing him for Diggs. I think it's going to be great for what the
Yeah,
Patriots want to do.
Patri- yeah, especially
And I
since
think
they
he would
still
have
have
been
Booty. Yeah.
right. And I think he would have been really productive for the 49ers, but in terms of like that physicality and size and filling that exact role that the 49ers want an X, I think we both had questions of whether that was a perfect fit with Dobbs.
He was just kind of a bigger Pearsall, which we
Right.
saw the issues. And listen, it's not to say that Pearsall can't play X. It's just that's not where he's going to be most useful. And I do think that a lot of the Pearsall hate is because he's getting moved around formations a lot and he's never really in his optimized spot. He's never really playing his true position because of the deficiencies of the Niners receiver rooms over the last couple of years. And because when you play him at X, he gets pinballed. I mean, I saw Seattle's the most extreme example, but the divisional game, the first 5 yards, I mean, you had no idea where he was coming out of the chute. Given that he lined up at the hash mark, he could be knocked outside the numbers, right? Like it didn't matter. He was getting out. And listen, he's playing on the PCL, all this stuff, but that's just that he doesn't have the bulk or the size. What he did have is the speed to demand the safety over the top, which is why they kept running him out there, even though it wasn't his best position, because he was the only one who could do that. Evans, because he has the physicality to beat press on the outside, play outside the numbers, or at the numbers, really, and because of what you mentioned earlier, like because he has that deep ball ability, because you could just toss a nine to him and just say, let's figure it out from
Right.
here. Because you're going to see once or twice a game that, back shoulder, go stand at the pylon. I'll get it over on the out, I'll throw it out of bounds. You just catch it there. They tried to do that with Pearsall. He couldn't do it. Like,
Yeah.
because that the safety has to be honest towards Mike Evans at all time. And in two high shells, if you don't have anybody who is demanding a safety, you're cooked because the quarterback can work one of them now. Like if you have a good quarterback like Brock who reads his progressions, you can handle the other safety. If you have two going back, which is not universal, Brock can read off one side, but the other side, it's called the sacrificial X for a reason. He has to take the safety. And that's something that Keyshawn Booty, we referenced
Yeah.
earlier, does great for New England. Mike Evans is always going to do that.
And what's interesting is like I expected Evans to be slow. Like just in my head, I'm like at that age, he's not as slow as I expected. Like he's
No.
not rapid, but like he's fast enough. He's a long strider, and I think that's part of it.
Hmm.
But he also like in the short area is pretty crafty, and it's not like he's coming out of these routes slow and looking old. Like he
No.
again, it's not going to be like foot in the ground snappy like how Pearsall runs a route, but he is going to get out of that break pretty quick because he rips off like with aggression and sort of he'll sometimes use a defender as a platform to snap out of a break, which is really impressive.
Yeah,
He just kind of does most of the things the 49ers want. Again, the question is going to be health,
totally.
and he might not, is he going to run routes at the same speed at like someone like Ayuk did? That's going
No.
to be a question. Probably not. There's a
But
little
he'll be
bit
more
more.
crisp than Ayuk, to be fair.
Right.
And Ayuk was pretty
Right.
crisp on his own.
Right. And so it's like, is he going to practice in training camp a bunch where he's kind of going to need to get adapted to the system and
Right.
Shanahan really cares about? Less so with a guy that he's going to hold in high regards like Mike Evans. But like
Right.
there will be a little bit of an adjustment. And
Hmm.
I think it's going to work fine because a lot of the routes he excels on, like deep overs, crossers, stuff like that, it's great. And he finds space like a tight end. He finds space like Travis Kelsey, where
Yeah.
even I saw him against in the scramble drill against Terrell, where he was trying to get to the sideline, and he knew I'm not going to outrun Terrell, so he fakes like he's going upfield and then snaps off, and it's just a scramble drill, so Terrell like can't keep up with him, and then he, finds space to make a catch toward the sidelines. There's just so much that you benefit from with a guy that has that much craft and that much knack and knows how to just be a pain.
Absolutely. And I think ultimately this is going to look like a genius move or it's going to look like an idiotic move. There's probably not going to be any in between. But I think I'm going to stand by what I told you yesterday when it went down. Like, this is the kind of deal that you do in Madden where you feel like
Yeah.
you're kind of in a video game and you're like, oh, Mike Evans would be really good for this. Like, he
You're like, Mike
fits.
Evans costs 15 million?
Yeah, you're like you do that every time because it's a video game, and like he gets injured, but you're just it's fake. There's a little bit of emotional and mental removal from it. we're going to find out how emotionally and mentally removed we should be pretty quickly here, I imagine,
Yep.
because the substation's going to be looking at those hammies, as the thumbnail says, going, here we go, here we go. I like it, especially with the contract that was signed, right?
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with anyone who's like, why wouldn't you go get Dobbs for a little bit more? But it looks to me, and this is a guess, as it stands now. But like Dobbs, because he's younger, a lot of that contract is probably going to be like actual bona
He
fide
wants,
dollars.
he needs, this is his first contract. He's 25. He needs to get paid. Mike Evans very clearly was offered more and said,
Had
I
to have been.
want, he what? I mean, it's funny. I mean, the tweets all the numbers are flim flam, really watching. Like Dobbs was like 3 for 51 or 4 for 70 or 4 for 80. It's all nonsense. And there's all these incentives mixed in. So it
Right.
gets really weird in the way teams structure it. So it's all nonsense money either way. But clearly he took less. Like that is
Yeah.
evident. That is discernibly from what we can tell from like a bunch of reporting from Bucks people. Like there were higher offers and he
Which
took less because he wanted to be in a system that worked and he could compete, which is like pretty funny and sad if you're a Bucks fan that he's like, yeah, I got a better chance against the Seahawks and the Rams in my division than I do with Tampa Bay.
well, also they've just switched over offensive coordinators there so much. I mean, it's
Yep.
got to be hard for him to feel like they're solid ground. I mean, everybody in Tampa Bay looks like they're in a lame duck year, if we're
Yep.
being frank, and that includes Baker. So, plus Emeka Ibuka has clearly taken over in Evans's absence. So then it's like,
Yep.
well, what is my role? And
And
um,
they kind of have a deep wide receiver room in a
yeah,
way.
yeah,
You know, they've got a
he'll still for some reason throw it to Sterling Shepard 75 times,
Of
but yeah.
course, of course. Yeah,
As
yeah,
sorry, as for the I think the question that's on a lot of our fans, which is a weird thing, the sickos, how about that? They're a separate entity. No one could actually like us. Um, I think I do still think that wide receiver is on the table at 27.
absolutely.
I think it's way less likely, but it's not impossible. And I would say that as of right now, unless there is somebody who is just absurd value at 27, my guess is that the Niners are not drafting in the first round, but are trying to get early into the second round and getting a couple of bits of the apple in the second round.
That's kind of what I've done in every. I mean, you always trade down, but it is like a
You've been
position that
mock drafting without me?
absolutely not. I've been in my own head again, like
You
Ryan
run the
Schneider, just
simulator.
sort of
Yeah.
running through
Yeah.
scenarios. I've been actually in a. This is not the first time we've mentioned precogs, but I've been sort of
Oh,
like a
okay.
precog, just
In
running
in the
scenarios
milk,
with
hanging out.
VR goggles that are not turned on. Um,
You're the only one left in the metaverse.
that's right. That's right.
Uh, other news yesterday. Obviously, the Niners got Trent Williams' replacement. Right, like you're going to trade him for
Right.
like a sixth round pick, and then this guy from the Patriots is just going to take over, even though he's butt.
Vidarian Lau. So I real quick, the deal is a 1+1 void. So it's 2.2 million on the cap this year, 3.21 million on the cap, then a nearly $4 million void year in whatever 2028, I think. Which hey, maybe we'll make it, maybe we won't.
Who knows?
But so a few things, as Dieter recognized immediately, just I think looking at a still image of him,
I looked
long
at a
arms.
long. Boy, those arms are long. I know a wingspan from 1,000 miles away, 3,000. Long arms. He's. You know what he looked like? He kind of looks like he's got the Spencer Burford body with longer arms.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So
I'm
like
into it.
I'm just gonna give you I've just been taking voice notes like a lawyer, and just like,
We
having
need to hire
AI
Jake,
skim
a
them.
paralegal.
It's been so much quicker than actually typing. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But like so what I liked is elite length, just a very competent baseline. Like great frame, great extension. He can recover a little bit because of that.
Yeah.
I don't think his recovery ability is great, which I'll get into in a sec. But because of that length, if he gets deep enough into his set, he can run guys around the edge. Um, I think his patience with his hands is pretty good. Second level run blocking because of that length, it's solid. He tends to pin guys pretty consistently.
Okay.
Overall, most of his sets are fine. Downside, boy is stiff. Not a lot
Yeah.
of lateral agility. Where there's some times where he'll like lunge. Because if a guy speed rushes, sometimes if he gets deep enough, like a speed rush, it looks really easy for him. And then
Mhm.
other times, like he doesn't get deep enough and he lunges, and then it's like, oh no, you have
Yeah.
no chance to recover. That
He's just
yeah,
doing like a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter, like just trying to get those arms out there and maybe knock that person offline.
yeah.
But at that point, once you've tried that move, there's 0% chance you could ever make a play afterwards.
Totally. And so there's
Yes.
that. And then at left tackle, there's a tendency to like lean on his left side, which opens up the inside hip, and it doesn't always get attacked. But sometimes, especially in the run game, you see him start to like peel open like a can.
Yeah.
Um, and so I see that as a vulnerability, which is why it's like a guy who's like 2, 3 million a year, where you're getting like, if this guy starts a few games for you, you're probably fine. You're also
Mhm.
probably going to allow a couple more ugly sacks, ugly pressures a game. And I don't think he moves all that well in space, but he's also fine. Like, I think
Yeah.
overwhelmingly, this is a really good price. It's a guy with really long arms, a nice frame. I think it's just a solid pickup.
Yeah. And clearly it was somebody that they had targeted because they were able to make a move so quickly. So
Yep.
they feel very convicted about it. I don't think it changes fundamentally anything. But he's younger, and you give him to Firster for a year, and they like to get guys. And even though their contracts might not be long term, they're like, no, 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 you're with us now. It's like an indentured
Yeah.
servitude thing.
Yeah. They love to have a swing tackle signed. They're like, we
Yeah.
don't want, and he played on the left and right, and he did some jumbo package stuff, which I don't think they're going to do, but he has caught a touchdown pass,
Hey, more
which
than Trent can say. So
that might be a source of frustration for Trent Williams.
Um, we are both of the mindset that this we could trade Trent Williams thing is just the latest card to be slapped down in the game of Jim Rummy. Gin Rummy.
Let me yeah. I mean, as you texted me and I respond, anything related to Trent Williams, I ignore. And please, if you haven't subscribed to the Hutch Report, go subscribe today because
Yes.
there's a question we're going to answer later, but I am going to touch on Trent and I give you basically the reason why I ignore everything with Trent. The 49ers and Trent, they both know exactly where each other stand. They
Yep.
put stuff out in the media and they go, well, I know that you know that I know this, and you don't have an alternative. So what are we going to do? And 49ers are like, we're going to keep you, but we're going to make it annoying. And
Yes.
that's what's going to happen.
And
And
Trent
if
Williams is like, you will never pay me less, but I might agree to take less when it's
he
all said and
is
done.
too old and too expensive for them to get enough in a trade. And guess what happens if you trade him? You need a left tackle. How does
I,
that make any sense? What's your plan there? So I'm workshopping. Someone asked about a guy I will get to
okay.
at
Oh
the end
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
this,
I know who it is too, and
and
it's an interesting name.
I'm working on something. I'm working on something, and I there's a little bit of a tingle there that it might make sense.
Okay, I want to run through real fast here, 23-minute mark, the deals that we did like in free agency for other
Yep.
teams. Uh, I thought Arizona had a kind of a banner day. I didn't love all their moves, but going out and getting Tyler Algier and my man Roy Lopez is at wonderfully reasonable rates is great,
They
great business.
they did the thing again to go back to Madden of where you're like, I'm a transition franchise, but I need to spend a certain amount of money. I'm going to sign guys to 2 year, $6 million deals that I
Yeah,
kind of like just to build up the roster, and maybe I'll jettison them for a 6 round pick later in the year if we
right.
don't want them and someone else does.
To be fair, I believe that the Jets have maximized that potential by just like, yeah, we're going to sign everybody, and we have no interest in winning at
Except they're
all.
overpaying them by like 3 or 4 million, where they're like, "Well, just trade him if we don't need him." Oh, we paid a little too much. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Don't worry, they'll all be gone with Aaron Glenn. At
but
some
they
point,
can
there's a
also
going.
eat the money. So.
Right. Um, so Arizona did a nice bit of business. Not all of it. There's some who think that Arizona just had a banner day. I'm not totally in on it. Um, the Raiders spent a lot of money. I think they spent good money. Who else were they going to spend it on? I think giving Linderbaum effectively 3 years guaranteed is good business. Getting two of the top linebackers in Dean and Walker in this class was good business. I thought the Raiders did well to reset this thing, and we'll see where it's at. But I'm
Yep.
not expecting them to do a Patriots here, where it's hey they spent a lot of money and now here they are going to the Super Bowl. But like that was good. We have the number one pick for a reason. We have a lot of money that we need to, under the cap we need to spend. Like this will expedite competency if it is at all possible for the Las Vegas Raiders. Just real fast, three other ones. I Kobe Bryant to the Bears, 3 years, 40 million is very, very good business.
I love it.
Very good business.
It's one of the
Um,
ones on my list.
Ken Gainwell, 2 years, 14 million with Tampa, I thought was really good. Uh, Especially too since they're not in a position to trust Bucky Irving moving forward. Gainwell is exactly what a Baker Mayfield. He's kind of the because he can run not as well as Bucky at his best, but certainly better than Bucky last year. But he can catch the ball very well, like Rashad White does. So now you don't have to mix and match where you're giving away what it is you're doing on every play based on which running back is in. So I thought Gainwell to Tampa was really good. I like Zion Johnson to Cleveland. It's a lot of money. Zion Johnson's a good player. Cleveland has no offensive lineman. That was good. And then Lottie's thrilled because Charlie Kohler's going to hang out with our friend Mike in Los Angeles at a rate that is
Can we talk about that?
absolutely
Because I
3 years, 24 million with 17 million guaranteed. He got the Dieter and Hutch bump. Full stop. If you know,
what
you
are
know.
the Niners doing at tight end? Because I know, and it's not to say like they might just keep Luke Farrell, which
I
I
think that
I
that's
think they
absolutely
are.
what's happening.
Um, I
They're
think
stuck in a
if they
loveless marriage, Jake. They have to
if
stick it
they
out for the kids.
expect that George Kittle's just going to come back and be himself off an Achilles because George Kittle is George Kittle and he likes to be optimistic and he trains really hard and he works really hard. I'm sure he'll have a quicker timeline than most. Um,
I
we'll see what they do through the draft. Again, it's still relatively early in free agency. You can pick up. I
don't know
just
who's
can't
left.
fathom a world in which Charlie Kohler's not a monumental upgrade over Luke Farrell, who you can post June 1 and save a few million on.
Yeah.
Even if you were just to cut him outright, I think that would make more sense. I
The Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I can't wrap my head around keeping Luke Farrell at
Right.
all. I think that was like objectively a cuttable season from
Hmm.
him, and I think you
Hmm.
need to be proactive at tight end. I think you needed at least one in free agency and one in the draft, and they've drafted horrifically at tight end.
Right.
So it would make sense to get a guy that maybe Brock Purdy has played with, who's a good blocker, who can block, in move situations, who can block in line, who also has athletic ability. At that price tag, it's kind of unfathomable to like not sign him. I know it's just us talking in a vacuum, but it's really yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
as I told everybody a couple weeks ago when Fleury went to Seattle, Cameron Clemens got promoted to tight ends coach.
yeah.
Um, so there might be something there that might help. It
Sure.
might not. It could also leave us in the exact same spot. You really can't get any worse than Farrell was last year. You still have Tonjes. You, I mean, the guys who are still on the market as we speak right now. Dallas Goddard, who's washed.
Okonkwo.
Okonkwo, Njoku, Janu. So that's a trifecta of wonderful
Some
Nigerian
good.
names.
I mean, yeah. It's
John
just those were like
Fitzpatrick, but he's
premium.
true blocker.
Those were like
Um,
premium names. Like it felt like this was like the sweet spot of like the
yeah.
six
Oh
ish
yeah.
$1 million guy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I don't know if they even made an offer. I do know that he had a robust market. I'll tell you that once word got out about Charlie Kohler, and there were some teams, of course, that knew all about Charlie Kohler, but like we were thought leaders in this space, Jake. I'll tell you that first and foremost. The
You
Charlie
more than I, but yeah,
the Charlie
absolutely.
Kohler Truth Brigade was strong and mighty towards the end, and frankly, I'm surprised that the Chargers got away with getting him for so little. I'm like
I agree.
3 years, 24 million with 17 million guaranteed, so that's a 2 year deal effectively.
Yep.
Is really really good. By the way, he's perfect for what they do because now you can play him and Gadsden at the same time. Gadsden can't block, but I love Gadsden's hands in last year's draft.
He can sort of do some stuff on like screens,
Long
but
arms, but nothing
he's
else.
basically a tight end. I mean, a wide
Wide
receiver.
receiver. Yeah, he's the Mike Gesicki, but you can split him out wide, use him as like a power slot, and then you keep Kohler in, and then Kohler's going to give you a lot more than Will Dissly ever did. So it's a really good pickup for the Chargers. And by the way, the Rams said, "Hey, what's our problem?" oh, we don't have any corners. Okay, let's just go get the two best corners on the Chiefs, who always have good corners. And I don't know how that's going to work for them long term, but they don't really need to think about the long term
Yep,
because Matt Stafford be old and lives in a mortal
I'm with you.
chamber. So that was
I'm with you.
unbelievable. I like Watson even more than I like McDuffie, though that's just a hipster take.
I do too. I'll just go through my list. I have a lot of the same ones. Josh Jobe at 8 million.
Oh,
Back to the Seahawks.
how the
Um,
hell does Josh Jobe get less money per year than Arden Key? What
I know he does.
universe are
He
we
didn't.
in?
I know he struggled in the NFC Championship game, but like, I don't. I mean, he was so good all year long. It's just, it's unfathomable that he's like that cheap for a guy who was such a standout last year. And
He's
like he
so
ran
good.
routes for Ricky Pearsall. Like Ricky Pearsall was like doing. It wasn't even like he was doing a bad job. He just ran the route, and part of that's coaching, which maybe you
Totally.
go back and you go, I don't. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I I prefer playing for Mike McDonald in this defense. It makes my life a little bit
right.
easier for sure.
But
But
still, it's fascinating. Aloha Gilman to the Chiefs,
oh, so good,
at the same price. I have Jalen Watson to the Rams, who, God, they
so good.
just, that's going to be so annoying. They just turned on the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, the Niners Chiefs one, and Kyle's
Right.
just like so mad right now. Just
Yeah.
absolutely furious going back to like, oh no, oh God.
Oh, he's
just
going to do it again. But now,
having
to
nightmares.
to be fair, you have Mike Evans now, theoretically.
And and that's the other argument of like maybe you draft another wide receiver early.
They're going to have to draft another wide receiver because
I
as it
agree.
stands, they can't roll in with this crew. Um, and
They
you'd
need
feel
one
more.
more guy with speed, and it can't be um, Jordan Watkins as much as like okay maybe he turns great.
Yeah, it can't be cowing either. So, um, there's still some good names out there, but and I do think there's still good money to be given out to guys out there. But it does feel as if they made their one move. It was a very fiscally prudent move, and I mean, do you know of any left guards? I guess the entire guard market is
There
still
are
sitting
some
around.
guards left. It's just like tricky to
Batonio and
suss out.
Teller and Zeitler and Parham and Becton and even
So
down to James Daniels.
I have a few questions for him. One,
Yeah.
they tried to get John Franklin Myers. Clearly, they were like
Oh yeah.
basically number two from him based on the reporting. They
Yeah.
know they need defensive tackle. I also would assume they know this draft is not great for defensive tackle.
That's right.
Unless like Pete Woods falls to you, you're taking a total swing. In the first 3 rounds, again, I've been on record. I would ignore defensive tackle. It's a
Right.
weird draft. Just leave it out. Uh, I think I have a lot of questions. Like, are they going to go after like Jonathan Allen? What does that
Hmm.
price tag look like? They need another defensive tackle and not just like an any man. Like they need a dude. It doesn't have to be the top tier, but like they need someone who can play key snaps for them. And then they don't have an answer there.
Well,
Tight end,
there's
as
you
I've
can still
yeah,
go get Daquan Jones. Sebastian Joseph Day is somebody that they've bandied about for a
he
while.
wasn't great for them, but yeah,
No.
he
Logan
theoretically is
Hall
a
is still available. Deshaun Hand just hit the market. Jonathan Allen, as you mentioned. Man, Javon Hargrave. I could just go bring that back. Greenlaw. Greenlaw at
right.
linebacker, which
But like
feels inevitable.
so defense, but I want to stick on like defensive
Yeah, yeah,
tackle and
yeah.
guard, like up the spine as we were talking about.
Love it.
Like defensive tackle is a huge question mark. They just have Alfred Collins coming off shoulder surgery and CJ West. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can Sebastian Valdez is sure, whatever. He's nothing yet. They need an answer there. At guard, they don't have a guard signed. Like they actually don't have a left guard option unless you're talking about Nick
Connor
Zakelj.
Colby. Connor Colby.
Okay, sure.
Well, listen, I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying that it's
If
something
that's
that
their plan, they should be fired.
we're in
If that's
agreement.
your plan to beat the Seahawks and you're to say, well, we got Connor Colby, we're good, you should be fired. I think that's an outrageous approach. I don't think that is their plan, but like they need an answer. And maybe that's through the draft where they,
Yeah.
the highest they valued someone was Aaron Banks. in the second
Second
round.
round, yeah.
You could make an argument that, hey, they trade back at a round one, pick up some extra picks that way, and say, hey, we're going to go for guard and receiver or corner, whatever.
Right,
Um, I still have trouble believing until I see it that they will value guard as highly as they need to.
right.
So I have questions there. I think there's a few key spots that I just I don't know that they have any clear answer to, and they need very very clear answers.
Well, I think what they're expecting is that the market will help them out, right? Because they're not
Right.
keen to go out and splash cash, right? They made their two aggressive moves, which is okay, we're going to go get Evans at this number, which by the way, it's
Yep.
unbelievable that they were able to figure out that contract
It's
within
a great
hours.
number.
It's a great number, right? We'll take Evans at this number at a total team friendly deal, and then we're going to go and get our guy from New England at a low number, but we like him. Those are our guys. Like, it's not to say that there isn't another guy that they're like, hell yeah, let's do this thing, but they might have more of a market. But like, they also put in a really strong bid on not Joseph Day, sorry, on Franklin Myers.
Yep.
I'm enough with the hyphens at
Hyphenated
three
last names
technique.
are tough.
And so uh, yeah, all this stuff has been working for months, right? Weeks earnestly, days for sure. And so the moves that they needed, that they wanted to make, they already put out there. And now they're waiting to see what the market is. And they're going to, maybe not come in on the underneath and say, okay, we're going to scoop up this guy because the market brought him back to us sitting here at the bottom of the barrel. So there's enough there that they can still do what they need to do with some plausible deniability towards
Yep. And again,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
early.
making it work.
And I think the worst thing to do is be like, oh, well, they haven't signed anybody yet. Like, there's a lot of time for stuff to play out.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I'm curious. And selfishly, I want answers to know like how
Yeah.
they are valuing certain positions, and mostly so I can wrap my head around, you know,
But yeah,
who they're
we
going to go for in the
I
draft.
mentioned the guards earlier. I mean, Batonio's still out there, Teller's still out there, Zeitler's still out there. Parham, who was my kind of sleeper guy, is still out there. Becton, who I don't think fits for the 49ers because he's too big and they got an itty bitty
Yep.
quarterback, is still out there. Van Roten, I'm not the biggest Van Roten guy. Tevin Jenkins, I'm not the biggest Jenkins guy. James Daniels is a hell of a player. Daniel Faleli is there. Chris Paul's a name that I've heard tied to the Niners, mainly because the Commanders and the Niners are just one operating unit, and they trade
Right.
players left, right, and center like they're the Steagles and the Warriors. But there's good options. There's good options, and I think unquestionably now we're at the point where they're going to go with guard by committee and see who wins it in camp, which isn't the worst thing. Better to have depth there than go in with one old dude and he gets injured and now you're stuck with Connor
Yep.
Colby again. But I would imagine they draft somebody who can play left guard. I imagine they sign someone who can play left guard, and maybe another run at the Ben Barch train. I don't know.
Yeah. They just have to take it seriously, and I'm not convinced that they are. They have about a month and a half
Jenkins
to
got
prove
re-signed
it.
with the Browns, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Good job, Luis. Thank you.
Um, by the way, just as to mentally close the loop on
Sure.
some deals I like and dislike,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna rip through them.
Rip them.
We pivoted off Charlie Kohler, Elijah Vera Tucker to the Patriots. It could backfire, but if
Big
it
time.
works, it's an awesome signing.
And that
As you
makes sense
mentioned,
too
Kobe, yeah,
because they're shifting what's his name, Wilson, from
to
guard
center.
to center.
Again,
That
I love Jared Wilson, but I said explicitly like center only, and they played him at guard, and he kind of got rocked because
and they said
didn't quite have the
Jake.
size for it.
Yeah.
And they, to
Jake.
their credit, they realized it.
Well, it was pretty hard not to realize it during the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game and
Yes.
the AFC divisional round and the like. So they're in an interesting spot. That is a really good one, and
Yep.
Vera Tucker has so much upside.
Yeah. A few deals I didn't like. J.K.
Yeah,
Dobbins, 2 years, $16 million to the Broncos. Felt like, oh, we'll do you a little favor. Um, felt like I know it's a 1 year, $8 million deal. That feels like a lot. Feels like a lot for a guy who's just never stayed healthy.
yeah,
Um, when there's other options out there. Again, high upside, but really, really, really can't stay healthy.
yeah.
Alec Pierce's deal, that's a lot.
And,
4
and
years,
getting rid of
100,
Pittman, right?
4 years, 116 million. We liked Alec Pierce. It got out of control too quick. You mentioned a lot of Raiders deals you liked. I was mostly with you. Quiddy Pay, I thought was a massive 3 years,
Yeah.
48 million. What's that about?
I don't know. I don't know what. Listen, some of this is just we have to throw money around, and if they
Right.
front load it, then they'll be fine in the long term, and they
Right.
give it a go. He does have a lot of talent. I mean, like but it never materialized in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
The Colts also. What I mean, the Colts had another couple moves where you're like, what
I
are we
know.
doing here?
Last two for me. Kendrick Bourne. Whoever signed him was gonna. I was gonna say I dislike. 2 years, 10 million to the Cardinals. Whatever. Good for him.
I guess.
And Wandale Robinson. four
Wow.
years, 70. Which again, none of these numbers are.
It's all fake.
You know.
It's all funny
Yeah.
money. But I almost universally hated everything that Tennessee did. And that includes Daniel Bellinger, where it's like, I'm sorry, how much did you
Right.
give Daniel
Right.
Bellinger? I
It's
like Daniel
just whatever the
Bellinger.
price was, everything was like higher than it should have been.
And it's like, don't you realize that you're in a state without state tax? Like, you don't have to pay the ultimate
Right.
premium here. Like, people do want to take your money. Trust me, they want to go live in Nashville. That whole thing is there's yeah. I have no faith whatsoever that Tennessee's going to turn it around. As in as I was watch them be awesome next year. As in as I was in on the Titans going into last year, even with Callahan, um, is how out I am now. And then you go and they get Franklin Myers, and it's like, well, why did you do that when you could have just kept Sweat, who's awesome?
Right.
But then who did they get? Jermaine Johnson off of that deal. Like there was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
they're in
One
a
of those guys
weird.
who's always like, he's going to turn a corner this year and kind of never does. I believe he's a USC guy, which,
Yeah, but Bob knows him, right? So how about that? Bob knew a lot of guys on the
I'm kind of
Niners
out on
last year.
Bob.
Too. I can't be more out on Bob, and I feel bad. It feels like such a wild swing to be this out on Bob. I don't know if I was ever that in on
We'll
Bob.
see.
I just think that I've seen through the charm, and I'm wondering when the substance shows up. And the way that he played the final months of his tenure with the Niners really did leave a bad taste in my mouth because his defense just appreciably got worse, and he's like, "That doesn't matter. I'm not
They
going to be
didn't
here
they didn't
next
have
year."
much, but yeah, it was rough.
It was, and I think it will be interesting to see with D'Amico. I'm sorry, not with D'Amico. Apologies. With who the hell's their new defensive
Raheem
coordinator?
Morris.
Raheem. Sorry, with Raheem and Flus and some new blood on that side of the ball. It will be interesting to see how many of the issues that Bob kept pointing to behind the scenes of like, how am I supposed to make this work when
Yeah.
I have this guy and that guy. How many of those issues are true, and how many of those issues just go away? I'm fascinated because it does feel like Bob is a world class excuse maker. No nice way to put that. Just feels like he's really good at passing the buck, and he's a survivor, and he's handsome and charming, and those two things can get you very far in this world and make you a hell of a lot of money. Should we answer some questions before all hell
I think
breaks
we
loose?
should. I'll start with this one. Would you
Yeah.
trade a 2/3 for Brian Thomas Jr.? I think you were talking about Brian Thomas Jr. a while ago. There's no actual sign that they're truly trading him. I
Well,
think he's a perfect scheme fit for the Shanahan system. Reminds me a lot of a longer, faster Ayuk, albeit one who drops the ball a lot and sometimes just
yeah,
doesn't want to play.
except for that fundamental difference. But yeah, your main guy out of SNY keeps saying that Brian Thomas Jr. is somehow in play. He's got the pipeline to Jacksonville. Um, Even though everybody has been asking for months, like, are they going to trade Brian Thomas Jr. and the Jags, who I think are pretty overt about their plans. By the way, not a
Yeah,
bad Super Bowl pick out of the AFC for this year if you're looking for value right now. Um, are like, no, we're not trading him. And then there was, now there's the thought of like a Kayvon Thibodeau for Brian Thomas Jr. straight up trade. That makes sense for both parties. I wouldn't mind that. I don't think that I don't think the Jaguars are in any way interested in getting draft picks for Brian Thomas. What's that going to do them? They think that they can compete for a title next year. Trevor Lawrence played MVP caliber football the final 10 games of the year. They were very good in the play. I mean, they were
yeah. They're also not
Buffalo got him.
planning to play Travis Hunt. He's going to play defense.
He's going to be a
That's the
CB,
chances.
which is where he should have always have been, frankly.
I
That was
said
my
it like
opinion.
if you're going to do both, he's got to play corner and then be a bit player on offense.
Yeah. You got to use them like 20,
Kevin
30% of the time. Devin Hester's a great. That's a legitimately great option. Hall of Famer Devin Hester, by the way. So, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to like what's going on in Jacksonville. I don't think that Brian Thomas Jr. for a second, and that would be a second and a third, by the way. Like, I don't
Yep.
think there's any way that you can get him for just a second or just a third. Um, and also now with Evans, it's not as pressing. I I wouldn't mind it. I think that'd be great value. I just don't think it's on the
Yeah.
board.
Yep. Um, Other super comment from Vincent.
Yeah,
Sorry if I missed this. If you guys talked about Sam Roush, Johnny Dell was saying he'd be a great fit. Go to the Hutch report where I had
there you
a
go.
total. I tried to evaluate Justin Jolie, and the first game I watched it was them getting slaughtered by Miami, and then the second game was the one he pulled the Greg Jennings where he's like limping up
Oh,
the sideline to score a
Timon is
touchdown.
back.
So I need to revisit that, but I watched Sam Roush the night before, and then again against Kyle Lewis at a pit,
Hmm.
and Roush was a guy I did not like initially, um, but he does work really hard and he is really athletic. It's just I think people are going like third or fourth rounder. It's like no, he's like a day three guy that you're like, you know what? He's athletic. He works hard. He's got stumpy arms, but like maybe we can teach him to run a route. Maybe.
Mm,
He grew on me. He grew on me. Again, I'm gonna leave a fuller evaluation to what's on the Hutch report and for our draft guide, but
yeah,
I'm probably not as in as some people, but I do generally like him and like the effort and athleticism. But I think there's a little bit of flaws that people
yeah.
overlook.
It's the draft, right? Like that's the funny thing.
Right.
Everybody in draft cycles is like, "Oh, this guy's great. This guy's great," and they see all the things that he can do, which is fantastic. That is how you should evaluate prospects. But then they get all frothy on it. It's like, well, the stuff that he can't do is just as important. And we're
Right.
dealing with unfinished products, like especially when we're not talking early first rounders.
Like one thing in that game against Pitt, he's running a wheel route. Kyle Lewis has to cover him. Roush or Lewis starts, sort of coming downhill because he thinks Roush is going to the flat, but
Yeah,
Roush starts rounding it way too early. He never sells that he's like actually running a route to the sidelines, and so Lewis gets his eyes around Roush, goes, "Oh, this is a wheel. He's
yeah,
going upfield," and then he runs the route for him. The quarterback, horrific job. By the way, Stanford's quarterback play was pathetic last year.
it
He
was.
throws it anyway, but Lewis, because Roush never actually sold that he's going to the sideline out and up, which Jolie did pretty well,
Hmm.
he never sold it. So the linebacker's able to run the route for him and make a pick. And it's like that sort of stuff, that sort of nuance he doesn't have. But it's also like if you're drafting him on day three, you're going, all right, that's okay. He has athletic ability. He works hard as a blocker. He's not always driving people, but there's a lot of functional reps. We can work with that. We can teach him, to be a receiver. I just think people go Stanford tight end and get a little bit too excited, but I like him more than I dislike him. I just think he's firmly a day three guy that you're going to need to develop a little bit and might have some limitations with some of that length.
Yeah, I mean, Luis is coming in here saying you just go draft Kyle Lewis instead,
Yeah,
is what
no,
you're
yeah.
saying. Kyle Lewis is a hell of a football player.
There's some I know you're high on Anthony Hill. I think you can wait to draft a really, really, really good linebacker in this draft.
I think that I don't. Okay, again, I know that we're supposed to be disagreeing more. I don't disagree with you. This is a very deep linebacker class. I think that Hill has so much more meat on the bone that scheme wasn't allowing him to show. And that is a bold take,
I think, yeah,
unquestionably, especially if you're talking 27. Now, if you're trading down to 37 or 42, now
yeah,
there's a different conversation. I think he's got the ability to be special, but I think there's a couple linebackers in this class, and I'm personally trying not to overreact to getting Swedinger so wrong last year, and
yeah,
then just saying everyone's actually really good. I see between him and Allen, I see such violence that I can't look away. I can't ignore
yeah.
that.
I was just
And
rewatching C.J. Allen and it made me happy.
he's a
Um,
great player, but like that's the thing. He's clearly off the board. Like he's clearly off the
yeah,
board in the
I'm
in
with
the
you.
teens or early 20s. If he falls to
Um,
the Niners at 27, that's a huge win.
Kyle Lewis will be available. He is insanely good in coverage. A guy to look out for who just is going to be in mock drafts as like a
Yeah.
random day three guy.
Okay.
Caleb Elam, or maybe it's because his last name is hard to pronounce. Elarms or
Earworms
Un
are.
unreal.
What
Like
school?
very, very good player. Great size, outrageous ability to bend at the second level and avoid tackles. Nice frame, can play coverage. Like shockingly good. I know it's Big 12, but he plays
Who
with
did he play for?
TCU.
Oh, right. Yes. So this is number 3 TCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your guy. That's your guy.
He's somebody I saw someone else tweet about him and I was like, that seems crazy high. And then I watched and I went, oh no. Whew, that's
um,
insane. Um
what else we
I
got?
so
This is your guy. This you want to talk about a guy. You want to talk about Jake's. Jake is coming around to where everyone was going into this year of college football, and then if he would have watched nothing,
here's
he
the
would have
thing.
gotten to the same spot.
Here's the thing. Let's get a little loose here, folks.
There we
Let's get a
go.
little loose.
Lay it on me.
The 49ers are very, very, very particular about what they draft in the offensive line and how they value offensive linemen. And if somebody is, say, a second round quality player and they're at 27, they'll say, nope, we're going to take a skill position player because he's actually
Hmm.
where we value him. Isaiah World is a guy that was a top 10 projected pick
Yes,
going into the season.
number one tackle on
And
the board going into the year.
he has,
Oregon.
quite frankly, outrageous movement ability that is disgusting. Like you're just like no one at that size should move that well. He has technique issues.
Hmm.
His anchor is in question. There are things that need polish. He also is coming off a torn ACL sustained in January, surgery in February. He might miss all of the season.
Hmm.
You have to sort of plan like he's going to redshirt his first year.
Okay.
What that means is he's going to be available in like round 3, maybe round 4. There like really, and there were
Okay.
some things that showed up on tape that knocked his stock. Like if he was
Right.
just a clear cut, still
Yeah.
worth a top 10 pick.
Yeah. He
His
went. He
stock
went from top
plummeted
10 to like maybe late first round to like probably second round. So now you're adding in the ACL. Okay, third round seems fair. Late
third
third.
round. Maybe a chance you can get him in the fourth. Um, I feel like where the 49ers are stacked up with like some late round. Not quite. Josh
Okay.
Simmons was much better, but I had the exact same thought.
It's
You're not totally off base.
and we
Um,
loved Josh Simmons last year.
in terms of a guy that talent wise they will grade out as like worth a second round pick, I think he will definitely be there. I think the
Yes.
talent alone, the movement ability, stuff they value in the run game, no question. He might even be first round caliber in terms of run game, tape, technique, some other things. A lot of question marks.
Yeah.
Um, but he's a guy that's suddenly going to be available in round 3,
Hmm.
available in round 4, and you go, okay, we keep Trent. We have a swing tackle locked up. Do we just say we're going to plan on redshirting this kid? Maybe he gets some snaps late in the year. But if we get to like late round 3 and this kid that we have graded out as like a second, almost borderline first round tackle is sitting there, is that the time we say, you know what? We are going to spend that pick because it's not spending that premium pick that we need. We've filled a lot of the other holes on our roster. We're going to take this big swing, this big bite at the apple, and say, this kid's going to get to learn and be a pro. Like he's
Yeah.
going to rehab in our weight room. He's going to get to learn our scheme. There's
Hmm.
going to be no pressure on him. Again,
Right.
I was trying not to go down this path because I'm literally just wrote a whole thing on the Hutch report today
Sorry.
that
Yeah.
is coming out
Well,
right
let
after
me
this.
let me
Yeah,
take the baton from you here. My concern with this plan is that it is a January ACL, and that
yep,
means no rookie mini camp, no off-season
correct.
training, and probably not any sort of a useful amount in training camp because they'd want to play it
Yep,
safe. And then you say, oh, well, he'll be learning. Well, that's great. You can do a lot in the classroom. This is a guy whose issues are in technique and lunging too soon and things that need to be worked on the field. Once the season starts, when is he getting that training? Like you have two
yeah,
offensive line coaches, so what you're really doing is you're redshirting him until next year's rookie, training camp, next year's OTAs, next year's training camp, and that might work,
yep.
right? That might be fine. But that's a long red shirt,
I
and if
agree.
it's the third round, so be it. Like that's fine. But if you have to go up and get him at all, and ultimately, I think most teams will probably run this calculus and be like, okay, and then they sits and sits and sits, and at some point, someone's going to be like, hey, why is this on the discount rack? This is great.
Right.
Um, And maybe that's the Niners. Maybe that's 31 other
because you're
teams.
losing a full year of the rookie contract, which is pretty devastating.
Right. So,
And you don't
yeah,
really get to see and identify quickly, is he going to be worth, or is he going to be what we think he could be? You're just going to be sitting there, which is why
yeah,
that's why I think it's like, all right, do we just take the chance because he's going to fall, and because we say we have Trent, and then this is an actual potential succession plan
right.
2 years
2
down the
years from now.
line?
But so, like, going to Luis's thing about, like, oh, he's Josh Simmons. Like, Josh Simmons could miss all that stuff because he was already coming in so goddamn polished that it didn't
He was
matter.
so sick.
He was so good. We had him in our top 15, right?
He
Like, he was
would the world would be well below Simmons.
well, unquestionably. He proved that he wasn't actually the top 10 guy with his play. Like, the ACL injury isn't the reason he's dropping. His play was the reason that he dropped. And, he had next to him as well, which matters. So, it's it's a bold play. It's a doable play. It's a play that if it comes to pass, I'll like, but it is not any sort of immediate thing. And I think that there's a lot more risk involved than I think would immediately come across on the surface. Even if you're taking them at, say, I don't have the numbers in front of me now, but like 80ish. Like if you're taking them there, it's like, oh well, now you have the Trent successor. It's like you might also have just committed 2 years to a guy who isn't the Trent successor, and now you're a year or two behind on finding that guy because you weren't able to find out that this guy was or wasn't for a while yet.
One thing that Kawachipto
Yeah.
mentioned that I think is crucial is that
Ooh,
it says a player's contract will not be told while on the PUP unless he's in the last year of his deal, and he is, yeah. Okay. So I have to totally check that. But if it doesn't toll and you can just PUP him for a year, that's interesting.
like a restricted list thing?
I mean, PUP is what you put guy.
PUP
Yeah,
is
I
a
mean
restricted list in a
that's
way.
what Curtis Rourke was on.
Until he
Um,
wasn't. That was the thing. They took him off for some reason.
no, he stayed on it. They
So they opened
activated
his
his
practice
window.
window.
Yep,
Does that
they
not
opened.
change that?
Nope, he went
Okay.
back on. So he
Okay.
stayed on the list forever.
So
So
he still has 4 years left. I mean, it's
apparently, I
seventh
need to
round
check
pick,
on
so he'd
this.
have two and then
I need to check on
ERFA, and
this.
then that's
But
interesting. Thank you. That's a
that
really
makes
good
it
comment.
much more appealing. So
All right. Well, we'll be deep in the CBA after this. Thank God I
yeah,
uploaded the CBA to an LLM so I can just ask it these questions.
it's great.
It
Um,
really has been helpful. The
yeah.
only thing. What else we have?
Is Dieter's daughter psyched about the Chargers getting in Charlie Kohler?
Oh no, we're she's hanging out with Snow for the first time, so she's not in Chargers mode right now.
Snow?
Snow, yeah, we're in Eastern or Central Washington right now.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
So
that's great. I brought my dog to Snow for the first time, and he just nosedived in it. I went,
that's awesome.
that's right. I knew you didn't have anything going on up there, but I appreciate seeing it.
Yeah, no, we're
Um,
they're gonna go skiing and stuff, and yeah, no, it's great for me. I don't have to work and watch two kids at the same time. Meanwhile, they're
incredible.
both up.
Connor Colby and Jake Brendel, of course, is the answer versus that Seahawks front four. That's strong.
Obviously, I think you just try it again. What could go wrong?
Yeah, it'll work better this time. Tony, what's Trent's trade value at this point? It's sort of an impossible question because he's due so much money. Um,
There's teams. I mean, with the way that these monies are being guaranteed, it seems as if teams are very fine. Like, what's Danielle Hunter's carrying a $40 million cap hit this year? They guaranteed every cent of that.
the
So
problem is he's 38, and
yeah,
you don't have another year tacked onto the deal, so you have to negotiate. I think a team would throw a two, but
late two. Yeah, late two, early
I
third.
think that's
There's no way
I
that's
think it's
valuable.
hard to say we're going to give you a one and
No.
something else for a guy who's 38, who costs 38. You know,
Here's how I know that a one is not in play. You should have seen when Max Crosby got traded. My phone, obviously, when there's a big fundamental move in the NFL, the
right?
phone blows up. And the general sentiment of people, my people, was, "Oh no, what have you done, Baltimore? Like that's too many first round picks for Max Crosby, who is really really good and is way younger, but has a lot of tread on the tire." And I think the Raiders were right to get rid of him in that, like, You're the number one pick for a reason. Get rid of everybody who makes good money on your team, and then give that money to other people who can also not be
Right.
great for your team. But like, it, you got to restart the whole damn thing. But giving up pick 14 and next year's first rounder uh, was considered too much for like a Max Crosby. So giving up a first rounder for a 38-year-old Trent Williams coming off his worst year as a pro is, especially at this juncture, is a bit much. So I
Yeah.
would say late second, early third, or maybe even like a 2-4 swap, right? Where the Niners have to kick something in alongside. And then we're just back at the same point of just take the damn cap hit.
Yeah.
Just take the cap hit.
He's I
It's gonna
again,
happen.
I don't see it. Luis, where do you see them drafting wide receiver this year after this Brazil dream has just died, right?
I don't think
I
so.
wouldn't preclude this meaning anything. I think they go, well, we go get an X receiver and then we'll evaluate the draft after free agency's done.
They can
And
view it
if
a lot
there's a
more
sick
holistically now.
Yeah, if there's a sick player that drops 27, remember what they did when they had Debo and Ayuk signed up? They drafted Pearsall. So that was a different situation. But still,
Might be a cautionary tale, but
still,
turned out they really
like,
needed him.
yeah, I wouldn't say it stops anything. What's the probability they get offensive tackle in the first round? Um, I don't know.
I would say it is the most plausible position for them to draft in the first round, given the way that the first round seems to be shaping up in these very early days of shaping.
Yep.
There's too many first round caliber tackles. It does seem as if we're already getting out, pardon the pun, given my location, over our skis with some of the physical potentials of players, Monroe Freeling. And I think if Proctor's there at 27, they're going to have a very hard time looking at anybody and saying
Yep.
no. I'm not sure they're there in the first round, though. That's where I stand as of
Right.
today.
Right. This is So what I've been watching, would Ian Otter be too much of a reach at 27 guard for a year or two before moving to tackle? I'm not sure he plays at guard.
I don't think he can.
I I've been watching him and watching him. He's a difficult evaluation because there's so much to like, and then there's some of like what's going on here?
Yeah.
And
And he's a right tackle, which is another kind of thing.
I don't think I know you physically. You look at him, you're like that guy could play guard. Style wise, I don't think I think that's a very difficult transition to say, hey, go from right tackle to left guard, and your skill set doesn't naturally sort of immediately translate. I don't necessarily think he's one of those guys. I think he's a pure tackle from what I've watched.
Agreed. I'll take it two steps further. One, there's two. So we have said a long time this is a truism of uh, tackle play. There are skinny guys you got to get fat, or there are fat guys you got to get
Yep.
skinny. Ian Acho is clearly a skinny guy you have to get fat.
Yeah.
He's got narrow hips. That is not a problem at all at tackle. He's got an athletic body. It allows him to move fast, all this stuff. You need a wide hip, big dumper boy to play guard in the NFL.
Yeah.
It just flat out. This is why Mekhi Becton is a fascinating thing. He was a super fat boy that you had to get skinny, but he's got the big wide dumper. At a certain point, it's about being able to set in a wide, get into a wide low set and just stand there and hold your ground. And at tackle, it's a little bit more choreography. It's a lot of dance moves and stuff. So, the best guards in football are just like, I am here, you cannot go through me. I got, good enough hands and feet that I can
Right.
move a couple of feet this way, that way. But like, I'm not dancing out here. The best tackles are dancing and delivering big hits, but it's a dance first
Yeah.
thing.
I'm
And
with
that's
you.
why everyone's going crazy with Freeling. I don't see the wide enough hips. I don't see the ass for it. It's just that's not a problem. And
I
this is
think
why
yeah.
Proctor's so interesting because he can do the
Yep.
dance moves, but boy, does that kid got a dumper.
Yeah. I think we should end on sad reunions. Geno Smith back to the Jets, almost certainly against his will. um,
Do you think he reports?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't.
Um,
I'd say I've had a great career. I've had a great resurgence in my career, and I have no interest in returning to Florham Park and hanging out with Woody Johnson.
do you think Woody Johnson ever interacts with Geno Smith upon his return? or does he
I think
avoid him
Woody
for an
Johnson
entire
is
year?
stuck somewhere under the weight of his enormous Sauce Gardner chain that is glued to his body.
It's the anchor to his yacht now.
That's right.
I will say this. Um, the Debo to the 49ers smoke is not a thing. That's real as it stands right now. I have not checked in for about a week or so, so I could be very wrong about this. Uh, there might be a point because I did send out a couple texts about a week ago about like what is this guy's market? Like what are we
Yeah.
hearing on this? It wouldn't shock me if Debo doesn't get signed until like July or August.
Yeah.
And in that case, it wouldn't shock me.
Incentive laden deal, I would
Right.
imagine.
It wouldn't shock me in the least bit if, in fact, he does come back to the 49ers then because somebody got injured, specifically
Right.
Ricky Pearsall got injured, and now you need a Z receiver. And all of your options available are children or Debo Samuel. Like at that point, yeah, you go with Debo.
Right. We'll
But
take Debo for 4 million plus
it's the
8.
Kendrick Bourne deal that he signed with the Niners this past
Yep.
year.
Yep.
And 500 yards means you get to do a dance twice. Like that's that sort of a thing. I don't think it's good for Kyle and the offense to have
I think he
Debo.
knows. I think
I,
Kyle knows that too.
I think yeah, but at a certain point, you need to win football games, and you might go back to old reliable, and who wasn't terribly reliable. And but again, if you're in a spot where it's like we have a bunch of children, and Pearsall's injured again because he busted up his knee first day
Right.
of training camp, and
And
Debo Samuel sitting out there, you're gonna have a hard time saying no.
Debo not on a big contract, on a
Oh yeah, he'd
need
be
to
on
prove it.
nothing. Yeah, he'd be on a
So,
nothing deal.
last one in terms of reunions, I think Greenlaw would make a lot more sense. Um,
I feel like Greenlaw is almost inevitable
I
because you
don't
bring
know.
him in. There's a trickiness. There's a trickiness on like you want someone who can compete with D Winters as opposed to then
You don't think Bob snaps him up?
that's an interesting thought. Maybe I haven't thought about the Titans linebacker situation. He probably overpays them because that's what the Tennessee Titans do these days.
Or
But
pairs him with or he goes back to Tennessee. By the way, sorry, briefly, I know we're answering questions. I had this in my notes.
yeah,
I needed to take a moment um, to talk about the Texans
sure. What are they doing?
because what are they doing? Uh,
Reed Blankenship's not good.
so they
He'll
are
look good
doing very,
now.
very strange things. They signed Kaimi Fairbairn to the
Yeah,
largest kicker contract in history, or per year, six
yeah.
and a half million per
I mean,
year.
for
They
for now,
also
for now, Aubrey will get it.
they also extended Daniil Hunter and for like 40 million just
Yeah, just
and
flat out.
guaranteed all of that. They were also the one team that brought all of the second rounders to a halt last year because
Yep.
they guaranteed the money for the
Yeah,
wide receiver out of well, they drafted both
they're
Iowa
both
State wide
Iowa State
receivers,
guys. Yeah, it was
but
Higgins who they gave it to.
they fully guaranteed a contract, which was not a thing. They are fixated on guaranteeing money. I don't know if it's a Texas thing or what, but like they as this story tells, they have to redo the contracts that they just extended for Daniil Hunter and Dalton Schultz because apparently they did something wrong, which is not something you ever hear, but I think
Never.
it's worth noting for a team that is just going out there aggressively guaranteeing money they don't have to. It's very strange and it will all fall apart at some point. I just don't I don't know what's going on, but the vibes are strange.
Nick Casario is a very weird dude. Full stop. He's just a weird dude, and he really does think that he's the smartest dude, and he might be, he might be, or he might not be. We're gonna find out. But I think this is one of those people in life who gets off on making other people uncomfortable. Like I think that that's his like
He's got an
fundament.
intense look at all times.
I think that that's his kink. Is like I'm gonna make all these other GMs squirm, and it's like, why are you doing that? I know that we're not all in this together, but like all you're doing is hurting yourself. And he's like, if I take everyone with me, then we can all be in hell together. It's like
That's right.
that's not a good policy. That's not a good policy. That's the motto of our show, but that's not a good policy.
On that note, I think that'll wrap it for today, but we will be back when the Niners inevitably sign Ben Barch for 1 year and $1.8 million.
Emergency pod.
It's going to be electric. And after this week, we're deep into draft season, so we will we
It'll be
have to
hot and
watch
heavy.
so many players, and I
Jake,
have to
don't
do
I
some
know it?
vibe coding.
Yeah. Well, I
Hint, hint.
appreciate the latter part, and we are. It's a we might be shaving dudes off. I think that is actually we're just going to do a little team meeting right now. Of like
That's
the
right.
400 or so prospects, we're going to shave some off because there's a lot of these guys who should not be drafted, and we don't need to have them anywhere near us. We'll
There's
figure
too
them out
many.
on the
There's
fly.
too many. All right,
So
folks.
that's it. Bye.